The earth under our feet feels completely solid right now. But if you look closely at history and nature, you quickly realize that our planet is never truly still. Beneath the surface and high in the sky, huge invisible forces are constantly shaping the world we live in. Sometimes, these movements are gentle, but other times, they remind us just how small we really are. Here is a journey through 16 moments when nature shows its true power. It usually starts without any real warning. You are sitting in a room, and suddenly the tea in your cup begins to ripple. Somewhere miles beneath you, massive blocks of underground rock just snapped after being stuck for years. That sudden break sends silent shockwaves right through the soil. That is an earthquake, and in a matter of seconds, it can turn a quiet afternoon into total chaos. If that same sudden snap happens deep under the ocean floor instead of dry land, the danger shifts to the water. The sea floor jumps, lifting billions of tons of water in a single second. Out in the deep ocean, you would not even notice the wave passing under your boat. But as that water rushes toward the shallow coast, it builds up into a massive, moving wall that sweeps over everything in its way. Further inland, deep underground heat can melt solid rock into liquid magma. When the pressure inside a mountain becomes too high, the earth simply cracks open. Red lava slowly creeps down the dark green hills, while giant clouds of gray ash block out the sun. It looks like the end of the world, but curiously, that same ash leaves behind some of the richest soil for future life. Up in the sky, weather can turn aggressive in a completely different way. Imagine a hot, humid summer day suddenly meeting a blast of freezing cold air high above the fields. The sky turns an eerie shade of green, and a spinning column of wind touches the ground. A tornado moves like a wildly swinging vacuum, lifting cars, pulling up ancient trees, and disappearing just as fast as it arrived. When that same atmospheric chaos happens over warm ocean water, it creates something much larger. A tropical cyclone does not just hit one town, it covers hundreds of miles. For days, screaming winds and heavy rains batter the coastlines. Standing outside in a hurricane feels like nature is trying to push back against everything humans have built. Sometimes the problem is not wind, but simply too much water. When rain falls without stopping for days, small, quiet streams slowly turn into brown rivers. The water rises above the riverbanks and quietly creeps into streets and homes. People often underestimate moving water, but even a thin layer of a fast-flowing flood can easily carry away a heavy car. On steep hills and mountains, all that extra rainwater soaks deep into the dirt. The ground gets incredibly heavy, losing its grip on the rocks underneath. Suddenly, tons of mud, trees, and earth slide down the mountain at terrifying speed. A landslide transforms a green, peaceful landscape into a sea of mud in just a few heart-stopping moments. High up where it is always cold, a similar danger exists, but made entirely of snow. Throughout the winter, fresh layers of snow build up on top of old ice. All it takes is a warm afternoon, a heavy wind, or even a single loud noise to break the top layer loose. An avalanche roars down the slope, gathering speed and burying everything in a heavy white blanket. Nature's power is not always loud or fast, sometimes it hurts through complete silence. A drought creeps in over long months without a single drop of rain. The soil cracks open like a giant jigsaw puzzle, rivers shrink into muddy puddles, and crops wither under a relentless sun. It is a slow, quiet crisis that forces people and animals to pack up and search for water elsewhere. Yet, that same dry heat sets up another sudden disaster. When forests become bone-dry after months without rain, a single spark from a summer lightning strike can ignite a massive wildfire. Driven by the wind, flames leap from tree to tree, creating a wall of fire that travels faster than a person can run, leaving behind only black ash and smoke. Weather can also surprise us from above with solid ice in the middle of summer. Inside heavy thunderstorm clouds, strong winds push raindrops up into freezing temperatures over and over again. The drops freeze, growing bigger with every trip, until they are too heavy to float. They fall as hailstones, smashing windows and ruining crops in just a few loud minutes. Even a standard thunderstorm carries incredible energy. High above us, static electricity builds up until it snaps, producing a blinding flash of lightning that is hotter than the surface of the sun. The sudden heat expands the surrounding air so fast that it creates a massive shockwave, the loud boom of thunder that shakes our windows. In vast deserts, wind shows its power not with rain, but with dust. Strong gusts pick up millions of tiny sand particles, building a towering wall of brown dust that swallows the horizon. Inside a sandstorm, the day suddenly turns into dark night, the air gets hard to breathe, and the stinging wind strips the paint right off vehicles. Far away in the polar regions, nature changes at a much slower, grander scale. Giant glaciers slowly push their way toward the sea like frozen rivers. When the edge of the ice reaches the ocean, massive chunks break off with a sound like a cannon shot and crash into the water. This process creates floating icebergs and reminds us how the planet is constantly shifting. Finally, we feel nature through extreme temperature waves that push weather conditions to absolute limits. During an intense summer heat wave, the air feels heavy, dry, and almost unbreathable. The scorching sun bakes city streets, melting asphalt roads and putting immense pressure on electrical power grids as everyone reaches for cooling. It is a quiet, suffocating crisis that reminds us how vulnerable life becomes when the atmosphere overheats. On the opposite end of the spectrum, a sudden polar freeze brings an entirely different kind of chaos. Freezing Arctic air drops temperatures far below zero in just a few short hours. Strong, icy winds freeze water pipes solid, cover roads in treacherous black ice, and bring daily transport to a complete standstill. These bitter frost waves force us to retreat indoors, showing that extreme cold can freeze the modern world just as fast as heat can burn it.